Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. My name is Kaylee Rademaker. I am an INFJ 9 Wing 1. Today we are going to talk about types, how to type yourself, how to help other people when they're struggling to type themselves, and common mistakes people make when trying to type themselves. So, if you'd like to talk with me about typing or the Enneagram or your life, just things that are going on, click the link in the description box below to go to my website where you can book an appointment with me or send me an email. We can work something out through there too. All right, let's get on with the video. All right, so jumping right in. One of the first ways that I see people all the time making mistakes with trying to type themselves and not sure how is identifying themselves with the qualities of a type instead of the values of that type. So to say something like 6s are anxious and I'm anxious, so I'm a 6. Or 2s are helpful and I'm helpful, so I'm a 2. That's kind of oversimplifying it in the way that people identify themselves with that, but you might be identifying yourself with your type based on how that type looks, how the type presents normally. So 5s think a lot and they're introverted and they all these different things that you might think of when you think of a 5, and if you look similar you might say I'm a 5, when you might not be a 5 if you don't have the same values. You just look the same as any of the other types. Somebody might say my boss is an 8 because he's always telling us what to do. Those aren't mutually exclusive. So being an 8 doesn't mean that you're telling people what to do all the time, and telling people what to do all the time doesn't mean you're an 8. So if you're trying to figure out what your type is, look at the values of that type and look at the sins of that type and the order of operations, how that type is going, how they're experiencing life. Is it first through doing and then through thinking and then through feeling? Or is it through feeling first and then doing and then thinking? So whether you look at the order of operations or the sins of that type or the values, that will help you figure out where you fit with that better than just looking at what does this type look like, because you might not look like a classic type 2 even though you are type 2, or you might not look like a classic type 9 but you are a type 9. So that is the first thing, that if you're trying to figure out your type, start doing that. Next thing is thinking that a quality belongs to only one type. This is kind of the same as the first point, but I've seen it many times where somebody's struggling. They're like, well, I'm anxious, so that means I'm a 6. It's like, well, that's the sin of the 6, but like lots of people can have anxiety. That's not the core value of the 6. The core value of the 6 is going to be in line with feeling security. And so if you're not going for that security, but you're still anxious, you might not be a 6. You might just be anxious. So thinking that a quality belongs to just one type, that's just in the way the type is presenting. That's not... No one quality is exclusive to only one type. Every type kind of looks very similar when they're healthy. It's in unhealth that you can really tell the difference between the types. So every type kind of, when people are doing well, they're functioning adults, and we all kind of know what that looks like. And so if you're just a well-functioning adult that gets along well and does well in life and is, maintaining boundaries and whatnot, all the types are going to look somewhat similar. It's when they start to deviate. In which way are you deviating? Are you deviating in the way that a 6 would, or are you deviating in a way that a 2 would? So yeah, types don't own qualities. These qualities can be shared among every type. It's who usually has them more and who usually presents in certain ways more often. So you can expect patterns from different types, but that doesn't mean that somebody who is following a certain pattern is that type, if that makes sense. Okay, next point. Not thinking enough about the types as a whole. Yeah, so this, like, it makes sense, but like this is something that definitely I didn't do right at the beginning because I mistyped myself when I first started learning about the Enneagram a few years ago. And that was just lack of knowledge on every type as a whole. So I knew a little bit about each type, enough to kind of grasp it. And I was like, I think I'm a 2, because I identified myself with a lot of the values and the qualities of a 2, but I just didn't know enough about the Enneagram. And I've known that, like, I've seen this happen with a lot of my friends, and where a lot of my friends who are girls think that they're 2s, when it very much seems, they'll tell me the description of a 6 or the description of a 9. And I'm like, do you think maybe you're 6? Do you think maybe you're 9? And they're like, oh yeah, I don't know, maybe, but I just care what people think about me. So I think I'm a 2. And it's like, well, there's not everyone has the same desire to know about the Enneagram, and that's perfectly fine. But since you're watching this video, I figure you probably do. So yeah, knowing more about every type, even if you don't think you're that type, will help you figure out where you fit. So if you think you might be a 4, but you might also be a 7, why would it benefit you to know about the 1? You could think, why? Well, it's not really that important to me. I should learn more about the 7, or I should learn more about the 4. Well, what's cool about the Enneagram is like the fact that everything is connected. And so knowing more about the 1, if you learn more about that specific type, then since they're all connected in some way, the 7 can look at the 1. If you are a 7, you say, oh, the 1 is definitely how I feel when I'm unhealthy. And for the 4, the 1 is how they feel when they are healthy. So you can help narrow down these options a little bit when you know more about every single type, because it helps build a foundation for you to put yourself in the right spot. Okay, hopefully that all makes sense. Hopefully I'm saying it clearly. Okay, yes, next point. Kind of the same as the last one, of just knowing more about the Enneagram will help, but letting go of this one idea you might have of a type. If you're like, this is what a type 1 looks like, this is what a type 2 looks like. If you have a person in mind, or even a couple people in mind, that might mislead you, honestly, because it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing, because the qualities don't always present the same way for people. It's the values. So every 1 wing 2 and every 1 wing 9, they're gonna look different from each other. Every 1 wing 2 is gonna look different from every other 1 wing 2. They'll have a lot of similarities, but they're gonna look different. And so to say every 1 looks like this and every 3 looks like this, then if you are one of these types that you have this like narrow idea about, then you won't be able to see yourself in that type, because you might look at that and say, okay, well, if Bob's an 8, then I'm not like Bob, so I'm not an 8. When you might be an 8, you're just a different type of 8 than Bob. You're just a different person than Bob. So you're both 8s, and you both have the same core values, and you both have a similar way maybe of going about things, but you have enough differences that it might confuse you and other people. So letting go of one idea you have about a type. I've been surprised by some people who I've thought you very much seem like this certain type to me and to everyone else, and they're no, very adamant. I have all the values of this type, and like these are my goals, and this is what I want out of life, but I just go about it in this way. And it's been surprising, but like, okay, sometimes types look like this. Sometimes a type 2 looks like a type 7. Sometimes a type 2 looks like a type 4. And so being able to let your understanding of a type be malleable as you meet new people who are these different types, being aware they may be mistyped, but they might be that type, and that's what this type might look like. The core values are there, then the way that they're going about getting it could look different. And so you might be a type that you don't think you are because you have a preconceived notion about it. So being able to question those preconceived notions and not compare yourself to other people that are that type as much, and instead the values, once again, and the order of operations and the sins. So how to kind of go from there. So after you've looked at the values, you've looked at the sins, you've looked at the order of operations, how you're experiencing life, how you want to experience life, the childhood wounds, looking at all of these different things, and you still aren't quite sure, then maybe you should take a look at the subtypes. You might find a subtype that really makes a lot of sense. But usually if you're like, well, maybe I'm, I seem like an 8, but I don't have, I don't seem that much like an 8, but I have a lot of values, but not all the same ones. Maybe I'm this, only identifying with this aspect of 8, versus you might find okay, you identify with every aspect of 6, but it's more maybe it's more painful, or it seems weak, and so you don't want that. If you can see, okay, do I identify with only one subtype of a type, or do I identify with all 3 subtypes of another type? If you only identify with the the social subtype of the 2, it's like, well, I might be only the social 2, not really a servant, not really a host, but I care what people think about me. It's like, well, yeah, most people care what other people think about them. Let's take a look back. Let's take a step back and look at it. So after you've kind of done all of these basic things, well, I say basic, they're not basic. After you do all of these difficult things, and you have a deeper understanding of each type, and you have a little bit more understanding of the core values and the sins and the worries and the fears and the struggles of each type, then what now? So if you still can't place yourself, or you have a pretty good idea but you're just not sure, it's good to talk with somebody else who knows about the Enneagram and personality stuff, because other people don't know your values like you do. Other people aren't gonna know. They might be able to help you be like, okay, well, you think you might be an assertive type because you feel like you're a very assertive person, but people who are working against being assertive are very aware of when they are being assertive. So maybe you're just thinking that you're being assertive when no one else would perceive you that way because you're working against it. Or you feel like, I'm so productive all the time because I'm always doing stuff. But if you maybe had some outside help or you were able to step back and look at what you're doing, you could see, I'm not actually that productive. It just feels taxing to do anything. You know, everything I do feels like it takes a lot of effort. Then that can help. But talking to somebody who knows about the Enneagram, that might know about the types and have a good understanding of all the types, might be able to help you as well. Sorry. So like talking to friends and family and maybe getting them involved in the Enneagram as well, and then being able to talk about it and talk it out, they might be able to help you gain a new perspective that you didn't have before. And so getting someone else's perspective can be really helpful, and not just seeing yourself, but seeing the whole system and how the whole system works. Okay, and the last thing is watching yourself. Really just taking some time, and instead of saying, am I acting like a 2 right now? Am I acting like a 6 right now? Am I acting like a whatever right now? Trying to step back and watch yourself and be like, what am I doing right now? Am I avoiding conflict? Am I avoiding my emotions? Am I avoiding tasks that I don't want to do? Am I procrastinating? And then when you're watching yourself and you're kind of aware of what you're doing, asking a deeper question of why. Why am I doing this? And that will help you identify what your values are. So if you can't figure out your type, it's for 2 reasons probably. Either you need to know more about each type in the Enneagram as a whole, or you need to know more about yourself and what you're doing. So if you can watch yourself and ask yourself questions of like, why am I doing this? Why is this even important to me? Why do I want to grow? Why do I want to be better? Why do I not want to have problems? You know, why do I get out of bed in the morning? What is my motivation? What makes me want to avoid problems? You know, different questions, asking why, and then trying to find the answer, you know, answering those questions, sitting with it and thinking about it, and then using the knowledge you have of yourself. If you can use that, it will be so easy to find your type if you know about each type, you know. So if you know, okay, these types oftentimes look like this because they care about these things and they focus on it in this way, and so on and so on. That will be the key. So, yeah, that is pretty much it for today. I talk with a lot of people trying to help them find their types, and so I'd still love to help you find your type. I'd love to help you ask those why questions and get those answers, and then tell you about each type and help you figure out, okay, am I doing this and it has the value of this, blah, blah, blah. So I would love to meet with you and help you figure out your type, but I would also love to help you equip yourself with the ability to find your own type and help a friend or family member who's struggling with finding their type, because that could make all the difference for them. I've seen the Enneagram do wonders for people who are having hard times with their own life and with their personal life and with their relationships and with their mental health, because if you can figure out what type you are, the Enneagram is helpful now. Now it's helpful. Now it really applies, because if you're a type 1 and you're struggling with type 1 things, then you can just look at, do type 1 struggle with this? Yes. Okay. So maybe my personality is hurting me and it's not helping me. Maybe this isn't reality, it's my mind. So anyways, that is pretty much all for today. I look forward to talking with you guys soon, and I hope this was helpful, if not entertaining. All right, bye. Mwah.